Hello, my lovelies. Or hello, YouTube. How you doing? I'm seeing YouTube, watching the timer. I hope everyone's having a fantabulous Saturday or a day that ends in Y. Yeah. I'm watching the timer. Hope you guys having a good day. Gotta tell you. Life is an adventure. That is all there is to it. Just an adventure. All right. Yay, Titan. A little cooler. I'm glad to hear it. Hey, there we go. Hello, my lovelies. This is Paisley Wild, and we are off adventuring into the spaces between. We're being broadcast live tonight, of course, on Truth Frequency Radio, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, and TalkStream Live. And also on YouTube. Hi, YouTube. Make sure you hit the thumbs up button, like, subscribe, you know the drill. And no matter how you are listening, make sure you stop in and say hello in one of the chat rooms or send me an email at wildepaisley@gmail.com. And if you want to check out what's going on in my world, I do try to update it once in a while at least. You can check out the website. That's www.paisleywild.com. And then, let's see what else. If you want to support the radio habit that I am happily wallowing in, you can always do the cash tag, and that's $TheSpacesBetween. And while you're doing research and everything else, check out iLife.com. iLife is the official sponsor for Truth Frequency Radio. iLife combines the unleaded and non-psychoactive properties of the ayahuasca, along with a high-quality CBD to help support you. Check it out, iLife.com. Oh, I am doing TikTok, by the way. It's an adventure. It's kind of fun. I like it better than Twitter, I have to tell you. If for no other reason than I don't feel quite as overwhelmed, even though it's just videos. Feedback, love it. The call line is open, and that's 213-233-3998. If you want to share an opinion, question, concern. Justin, if you want to try calling in tonight, first thing, absolutely let me know. And we'll see if we can get you connected. I'm not sure what went awry last night with the call board. I saw you. I just couldn't hear you. And then if you're across the pond in the UK, you can also call 44203-393-2871. So, there's crazy things happening in the weather world right now. There's a little teeny tiny obnoxious hurricane hitting Louisiana and the Gulf of Mexico, which seems like they're getting hit with stuff every so often, unfortunately. Here in the Pacific Northwest, some of our fires are kind of chilling out and everything, and it's because we have our October rains happening in September, and I'm okay with that. I like fall. It's a good thing. And then I know California could use a little bit more rain. They're still dealing with some of those crazy wildfires. Craziness. So, sending some energy to those that are dealing with the fires and the fallout there, dealing with the flooding and the hurricanes, and then also the stuff overseas. And holy cow, there's a whole list of things actually. Yeah, that just going on in the world right now, and I am not going to focus on it. Because that's a whole nother show. I'll monopolize Lucky's show maybe, if we want to talk about that. That's on Mondays and Wednesdays. And Lucky can drop I've known Lucky for a couple of years now. Do you think I can remember what time her show is? I am a bad friend. I'm sorry. Just like Pharmacy is on the air too sometimes. Can I remember those? Sigh. Bad friend. Yeah. This is why I need a day planner all the time. I have like 6 calendars in my world all the time. Yeah, now is it a hurricane or a typhoon if it's in the Pacific coast? Because I know that Baja, Mexico, Baja, California, they're seeing some things too. Maybe they'll kick some rain up into California and kind of smother some fire. Because, yes, it needs it. All right. Thanks, Lucky. 7 p.m. Eastern Time to tune into Lucky's show. She's not very pagan. She's more current events. And talks about the news that you need to hear. Not what mainstream media wants to tell you. So, yes. Tune it in. Thank you, Lucky. I have the big cup of coffee today. 20-ounce mug. Yes. Because I need it. Yeah, hurricane, tempests. Titan. Titan, we haven't seen you for a while. You haven't asked very many questions lately. Tempests. Define tempests. Tempest. So, Titan asks, Paisley, do you subscribe to tempests? And I think it's a fascinating subject. And so, the basic definition of a tempest is a raging storm, a raging, windy, violent storm. And I think before hurricanes and such became so definitive, tempest was kind of applied to hurricanes, tornadoes, typhoons, all of that. And it was just that violent storm. And so for me, if I'm looking up and looking at the weather, yeah, I think we're experiencing more tempests lately. And maybe that would be considered the definition of some of the upper level storms that we're having. Because some of them are It's like, oh, that's a category 5. Are you sure it's not a 5.5 or a 6? Or where's the top end of this? Same with the tornadoes. Some of them are pretty major. And so he asks, for clarification, aren't they the spirits in the storms? Well, it's complicated. Let's see. No, that's not it. I know Tempest is a lot of the neo-pagans are starting to use Tempest as a name, which is kind of cool, but at the same time, pagan. Let's see. Bum 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 bum. Can't spell. There we go. So it's considered. So it may be considered a liminal. Spirit Titan's like, oh, sorry. Well, because I will lucky. That's why. Yeah, it's thought that perhaps a tempest is a demonic in nature, or a demonic type of energy, but honestly, I think it's just that's the Christianization of the storm spirit or the storm energy. Now, do they? For me, I don't think, my interpretation, I should say, I don't feel that a lot of the hurricanes and storms that we're experiencing today really qualify as a tempest, as they may have, when the gods were walking among us, in part because I think it was more godlike energy, maybe a lesser god or lesser deity, not demonic, just someone further down on the totem pole. But yes, very much an elemental. And anyways, with that being said, for it to be a tempest would mean, for me, that the spirit of the storm or the energy of the storm, the elemental, if you will, would be also directing the energy of the storm more. So it would possibly target, target areas. Oh, you are just here. That's what happened, guys.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't think your microphone's on.
My microphone's on. You just don't have it unmuted.
You are unmuted.
Well,
I can't. Am I on?
Oh, there you are.
okay. So
Oh,
I am
look at
on.
you. Yeah, you're
So,
on.
Anyhow.
Mr. Don is in the house, and he's typing in my chat box.
My camera okay?
Yeah. All I see is your hat and your beard, which I suppose kind of goes with the territory. So yeah, if it was a true tempest or an elemental ruled storm or a wild elemental energy, then I think it would be more damaging than some of the storms that we're having. I'm not saying that it can't get to that point, but with a lot of modern technology, I think interferes with some of that elemental energy and some of that deity energy that's out there, and as a result, it is harder for a storm to achieve that elemental sentience, if you will. I don't know if that makes sense. Does that make sense, Don? Is Don listening? Don's
No,
not.
I'm sorry.
Don's busy talking with his fingers. Well, he was eating, but you guys missed that part.
Nutella and chocolate chips.
Oh, goodness gracious.
Yes.
You're going to have a sugar crash. So yeah, it just... so yeah, for a tempest form, I feel that's a more of a sentient energy, of an elemental. And if you are experiencing a weather pattern that's really strong and it kind of stalls out in certain places and seems to be working contrary to what the meteorologists are trying to speak of, that I think is when the tempest energy is happening, or the true tempest part of the storm is happening. So far, the meteorologists, mostly they get it right. Mostly, at least the interpretation, they kind of have an idea. It's when they really mess up, I think, is the tempest energy is really showing up. I don't know. Did I explain anything, or did I just kind of talk around it and be confusing? I feel like I talked around it was confusing. Yeah. Anyways. But no, I don't know, I think they're there. I think it's just some of the technology, like radio waves, microwaves, that kind of stuff, is interfering in some of that energy. Now, I think it's changing and adapting and evolving. So I think the tempest energy or the elemental energy will return. It's just taking a little bit for our energy to stabilize with the microwaves and such, for the elementals to adapt. And I think that's why we're seeing some of the changing weather patterns that we are. Yeah, and the hurricanes that are blowing up, well, we all know, okay, we don't all know, but many of us know that mankind is trying to tamper with the weather.
No. No way.
Just a little bit. And I think most of my listeners are kind of on that same page. And just like the fire that was going on just to the east of us here was caused by lightning. The lightning itself
Was not natural.
was not natural. We'll leave it at that. It wasn't natural. So with the hurricanes and such, and the way they're blowing up and the way that energy is starting to channel, I think there's something to be said about mankind influence there. But also, some of that is due to some of the solar activity that we're experiencing. If you guys ever have a chance to check out some of the... Oh, Lucky, what's that channel that we look at all the time?
RGIS?
No, she'll pop it up in the chat room because HARP, yes. It's... I was just watching one of the videos before I came over here. Suspicious Observers.
Oh.
So, Suspicious Observers has a YouTube channel, and he really goes into a lot of detail on what's going on with the solar storms and the solar flares and such. And
Shadows on the moon and...
yeah, and just how that's impacting the electromagnetic field of the Earth. And then there's a local group that's really worried about the electromagnetic usage that's happening around in general, like with SpaceX and stuff. Yes, that's it exactly, Lucky. And so there's concern that some of that energy that's coming down from the satellites and such is probably impacting our weather as well. So the energy is there. I think the energy is adapting. I think the storms are going to get bigger, and the classification or the scales will, they'll have to be adding some levels to it, because I think we're going to start having bigger storms, grander storms, more extreme storms. And that's just my interpretation. So it's kind of funny, we're all talking about weather, and that's what I wanted to talk about tonight anyways, because there's a lot of weather lore, folklore, magic, that kind of stuff. And I figured, well, maybe we should talk about it. Yes. So it's frustrating when you Google weather folklore. Wikipedia likes to come up and say, hey, check us out. And generally Wikipedia is full of horse hockey. Well, no, it's got a lot of good information on there, but you have to look at the sites. Where did the information come from? Otherwise, we're like, yeah, Yeah. There's a lot of information, but it's not necessarily real. So, with weather folklore, and the links will be in the show notes again, like always, just because I'm not going to include everything in here. Maybe. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. Because we've all heard different rhymes or different things when it comes to the weather. Like red sky at night, shepherd's delight. Red sky in the morning, shepherds take warning. Or you can substitute sailor for shepherd. So that one supposedly originates from the UK, and it refers to the setting sun illuminating a departing front that would be gone by the following day, or the red sky in the morning is the rising sun and illuminating the front as it's coming up. So the accompanying rain is on its way towards you. Now, it can, it's the reverse the other way if you're in the southern half of the world, because of the Coriolis effect, and the weather patterns or the wind patterns travel from west to east in the northern half of the planet, and from east to west in the southern half. Oh, I'm in the camera. Am I not in the camera? Droop. There. I'm just kind of channeling my inner Snape. I look all dark and stuff. Anyway, so in the southern half of the world, a red sky in the morning is generally indicative of a dry day, and so it's just the opposite. But we have to really pay attention to the weather patterns and such, because they do impact what we're doing. So I know that periodically I will look at the weather to see what the jet stream's doing, what it's forecast to be doing. I do pay attention to weather modeling, because it's not just, what's going on or what I can observe. Although, just by observing, I know fall is here because we've got the October rains. But also Bigfoot raided the plum tree. We have no plums. We had plums 2 days ago. I ate them. And the plums are all gone. Why's the plums gone? So, and also the bucks are starting to shed their felt, the felt off their antlers already. So it's like, rutting season is coming a little earlier. And the leaves are turning on all the trees already. So normally that doesn't happen until the end of September rather than the end of August. So to me, those are all in-your-face, obvious signs that the weather's changing. But there are other things that you can look at with the weather that can help you predict the patterns. In the past, some of those traditions, where'd it go? Because, weather has always been kind of important to us. Is it raining, snowing? Is it, what's going on? The very first agriculturalists, the Neolithic ancestors and such, they studied the cycles of the moon and the sun. They erected the stone circles, like Stonehenge and such, so they could kind of predict what the weather's going to be like, or growing patterns and such. And those are generally aligned with the solstices, both winter and summer, or the equinoxes, perhaps lunar events. And then as the calendar evolved, it became noticed that certain weather conditions on certain days influenced things in the following weeks. So those observations then were added to the existing calendars. So like Beltane is the 1st of May, Samhain is the 1st of November, Imlach is the 1st of February, and Lunasa is the 1st of August. So those are all common events. And so the different deities then were worshipped, or the holidays observed that were relevant for that particular day or that particular weather change or seasonal shift. And then when the Christian missionaries got to the the British Isles. They tried really hard to translate the pagan and heathen practices, the deep-rooted ones, into Christian interpretations. And so the church then started attaching saints' names to the Celtic weather prophecy name, or days, if you will, to try to align the two systems and essentially subvert the heathenry. So the different saints' days of prediction became the calendar that agriculture was planned around. So then as people developed and did more things, more fishing, more history, more planting, etc., other things became added to the lore, if you will, like the clouds being red, take heed, that kind of thing. So people used to do, recite the saints' days of weather prophecy, especially, those that are more Catholic in their tradition. And so Midsummer Day in June, so June 24th, is also known as the Feast of John the Baptist. And those, they just started changing things. All Hallows Day was November 1st. Or also became known as All Saints Day, and it just kept changing, right? Which, honestly, I wish they hadn't mucked up the names, because it really confuses things when my brain only has like this much space to try to handle this much information and process it. And so, when you're trying to have a conversation with people with different traditions and different paths, you're like, hey, so this is going on, this is going on, this is on. Like, what holiday was that again? It's like, oh, this one. It's like, and what day is that? It's like, oh, this is on this day. It's like, oh, you mean this holiday? And it's just, pick a name, kids. That's all. So, because the pagan calendar ends on October 31st, or Samhain, that's the end of the year, and then it starts again. That's partly because that's when the harvest was done. And so when harvest was hauled in and everything was done there, that was considered the end of the year. So that's when the harvest celebrations would start happening. Like, hey, we're done, and winter's coming, and all that. And I'm going to stop there because we're about to go to our first break already. It's amazing how fast that first half hour goes. I don't know what it is with the White Walkers or in my chat room. Anyways,
Game of Thorns.
I know. So we're off to our first break, and we'll be right back, kids, and we'll keep talking about the weather. Hello, my lovelies. This is Paisley Wild, and we're off adventuring into the spaces between. Apparently, your chocolate chips inspired Leo. He had to go get milk and chocolate cookies. Because winter's coming. Yes, winter is coming, and like Justin's in the house, and had to take care of some critters. Yep. Oh, those critters. They always take longer than you planned. Doesn't really matter what kind of critter. It could be a childlike critter. It could be a chicken. And they always take longer. Oof. So, we're talking about the weather tonight. And, folklore around it. So there's some poetry and such, of course, that ended up in that folklore because that's the easy way to remember things. And let's see. Because November was, the beginning of the dark half of the year for those in the north, the Celts developed, let's see. Yes. I think it was developed a poem, and it says, "On the 1st of November, if weather is clear, 'tis the end of the sowing you'll do for the year." Or sowing, excuse me. So basically, if a clear day happened with frost and coupled with a shortening of the hours, it's time to stop sowing in the autumn. Because there are some plants or some things you plant in the fall because it just, like winter wheat, for instance, you plant it in the fall. It does its thing over the winter, hopefully not being frozen too hard because the snow's sitting on top. And then it grows a little earlier and is the first wheat to be harvested, in the summer. So there were other predictions, after that. So if ducks do slide at Martinmas, which was, hold on, they just 12-point font is beautiful. Basically, it's November. If ducks do slide at Martinmas, as Christmas they will swim. If ducks do swim at Martinmas, at Christmas they will slide. So basically, if it's a cold snap before Christmas, is often followed by a mild winter, and vice versa. And then if leaves fall not by Martinmas Day, a cruel winter is on its way. Martinmas on November 23rd, or St. Clement's Day, supposedly set things. Have a good night, Lucky. Set the tone or set the pattern for the weather for the coming year. And then at St. Catherine's Day, Fallow Fair, so 'twill be next February. So they can't spell. But basically, St. Catherine's Day, weird random note, she's apparently so pious that she bled milk when she was beheaded. That's how she became a saint. She was beheaded. So, yeah. I know. Don just looks up at the camera like, WTF. I could hear the WTF, even though he said nothing. But, the church has always been kind of odd. Let's see. And if it freeze on St. Thomas's Day, the price of corn will fall. If it be mild, the price will rise. So basically, it's the idea that a good summer follows a bad winter, or a bad summer follows a mild winter. And then, if New Year's Eve the wind blows south, it betokeneth warmth and growth. If west, much milk and fish in the sea. If north, cold and storms there will be. If east, the trees will bear much fruit. If northeast, then flee it man and brute. So basically, it's saying January means, what's the weather going to be like is going to really impact the rest of the year. So whatever the first of the year is like. So hopefully January 1 this year will be pretty cool. Pretty normal, pretty I don't know Titan. They just I don't know. They're Catholics. Maybe they're high on incense. And then Ananias, the bishop of Damascus. Apparently he was tortured and stoned to death in AD 40. So if it's Saint Ananias, Ananias. Ananias. If Saint Ananias' day be fair and clear, it betokeneth a happy year. But if chance to snow or rain, dear will be all sorts of grain. If clouds or mist do dark the sky, great store of birds and beasts will die. And if the winds do fly aloft, then wars shall vex the kingdom oft. That's interesting. So if it's windy... Leo, you're funny. You guys are funny. Your mom broke her leg and gravy came out. You are funny, child. So, anyways, a lot of those rhymes and such are kind of nonsensical, but at the same time, they had a lot of weight and a lot of meaning. And if we look at today, some of that still stands. And even though it's, this was all done, in the early part of, what is that? The first couple centuries, the first 100 years after the death of Christ, supposedly. That so many of those things that they wrote down and thought were just, they felt it was factual, and today many people, learned people supposedly, look upon them as just fiction. It's a myth. It can't be possible. Can't be real at all. No way. And but in reality, a lot of those myths that happened once upon a time are still true today. Are you doing something over there?
No, your cats are.
Okay, well, the cats aren't clicking on my headphones. It's just very weird.
That?
Nope.
Oh.
I don't know. It was very weird. It just sounded like someone was going... I don't know. Weird. Sorry. Even though we're not the paranormal portal, we still get weird things. But, one of the biggest superstitions that the U.S. celebrates is Groundhog Day. Punxsutawney Phil, the fat groundhog.
Who bit the mayor?
Which is kind of funny.
And gravy came out.
Right. So, yeah, and that started on February 2nd, 1887. Punxsutawney Phil in Gobbler's Knob in Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania. So, I know, right? I know. So, basically, if the groundhog comes out of its hole and sees its shadow, it gets scared and goes back into a burrow. It says 6 more weeks of winter. It's no shadow means an early spring. Well, this started in Germany. The Germans are responsible for it. So they generally selected an animal, often the hedgehog, as a means of predicting the weather. And so just some little rodent would come out of its burrow and either go back to bed. So groundhogs are also known as woodchucks, just so you know. And they generally go into hibernation, and they're ready to come out in March regardless. But, yeah. There's a lot of information about Punxsutawney Phil. It's just crazy to me that it's such a big deal. Because it's a groundhog, for crying out loud. But they've been doing that for centuries now. 1887. That was a long time ago. So apparently, well, I know it's a big festival now, and they have a lot of media circusry around it. And Leo says, wow, these things these crazy humans come up with to tell the weather. So, truth. My dad tied a string around a rock and hung it from a tree. And
The weather rope.
no, there's a rock tied with a rope. And so basically, if the rock was wet, well, that meant it was raining. If you couldn't see it, it meant it was foggy. If it was dry, it means it was probably sunny. If it was swinging in the wind, it meant it was windy, So,
Commando.
right? Justin says, I don't think watching the animals to predict the weather is such a bad idea. They seem to know before we do when something is going to happen. For example, earthquakes or weather events. Absolutely. There is something to be said about that. Like, before this weather pattern moved in that we've been dealing with all this rain, which has been kind of nice to have the rain. It's been beautiful. My favorite temperatures. And driving home from jiu-jitsu with Mini-Me, and probably saw 50 deer in 10 miles. It was insane. Bucks were all herded up together, doing their thing, and a couple fawns still have spots, but for the most part, everything's starting to look fluffy. Drama, by the way, who's outside right now because she's protesting, she's getting her winter coat. She has her winter fat and has had that for a while, but her fur is getting quite fluffy, and that generally tells me it. Winter is going to be here a little earlier. Same thing if you have livestock. Often, you can tell by just looking at your animals. If they're getting their winter coats in sooner, often that means that winter's coming sooner. What are you doing? Let's see. There we go. So, other ways of trying to figure out the weather, because Imbolc or Candlemas is Groundhog's Day, by the way. Even though, it's a fat rodent. Let's see. There, in England, where some of that stuff was practiced, of course, they found that on Candlemas or Imbolc, if the weather is fine and clear, then it would still be stormy for the next several weeks of winter. And then in Scotland, the Highlanders had a tradition of pounding the ground with a stick until a serpent emerged. And the snake's behavior then gave them an idea of how much frost was left in the season. So, yeah, Scots are truly crazy. They would beat up a snake to have him tell you the weather. Because, who's going to be more honest than an angry snake? Let's see. In the Appalachian Mountains, there's a legend that if the cows are laying down in their fields, it means rain is on the way. Although that may be something that the farmers or the locals just tell the tourists, because most cows seek shelter when it's raining. They like to stand under trees or roofs or something. And then, so, unless there isn't shelter, then they'll move with the wind to the nearest fence line. So if the wind is coming from the south and blowing towards the north, you'll often find them up by the northernmost fence line, or, wherever the wind is blowing to. There are stories, or other stories, there, like if a rooster crows in the middle of the night, it means it's going to rain the next day. Or if dogs start running in circles, bad weather's coming. And another one is if birds build their nests closer to the ground than usual, a hard winter is coming. I don't know about that one. Titan says an angry groundhog would be more honest. Yeah, probably. That's probably why he bit the mayor. He didn't want to deal with 2021 either. It's not quite 2020 2.0. It's a whole new adventure. Absolutely a new adventure. So, let's see. I had more here. So if when night falls and the moon and stars can be excellent indicators of weather to come. So that's pretty useful when you're planning a ritual or if you're already out in the countryside. However, if there's a halo around the moon, for instance, and it's lead colored, that means rain is on the way. If the halo is red or crimson in color, it means wind and rain. The size of the halo also indicates the amount of rain that you can expect. So a larger halo means you're going to have more rain, or a smaller one might be only a little bit of drizzle. Now, that can also be said in the winter, if there's a halo around the moon, often that means it's ice crystals in the sky rather than water crystals, and cold weather's coming. That's one my dad swears by to this day. It's like, Dad, you live in North Carolina. It's not going to be 10 below. It's okay. Let's see. When there is little or no moon, the way the stars behave can also be used. So if they're small and seem to blink a lot, there'll probably be wind the next day. And if they're larger and appear to be blinking just a bit, then it means wind and rain are on the way. And if they're large and clear, then fine weather can be expected. Let's see. That's interesting, Titan. I'm just going to stick this in here because I want to look. Titan says the animals have been acting a bit peculiar around Yellowstone. And, Did you know that Snopes got snoped? Yes. There we go. So the bison left early in February. Wow, you know how when you put something in a search engine and it starts, auto-loading the words that it thinks you're going to say, and then it says, "Ooh, hey, similar questions about blah blah blah." One of the questions here is, "Do wolves eat bison?" Yes. Yeah, sorry, that just makes me giggle. Because, yeah, I'm not seeing anything new this year, so. But, yeah, there's some interesting things happening in Yellowstone. But if you stop and think about it, if you look around the Pacific Rim, where all the volcanoes are at, or a lot of the volcanoes are at, I should say, there's a lot of them going off right now, and there's some warnings that we need to pay attention to, some of them, that they are getting closer to going off and releasing some pressure. And I think as we are watching the solar energy and the geomagnetic energy and how it's affecting the Earth, I think we will know what's happening more with our volcanoes. Just saying, because, yeah, there's some stuff there. If you don't have the opportunity to look at the night sky, the stars and the moon and such, if you're out camping, your fire can actually kind of give you some sort of indicator that, what the weather is going to be like. So if smoke is close to the ground, and perhaps, sticking around or flowing, into your tent and that kind of thing, that means that rain's probably going to happen. But if it goes straight up, the weather will be or will continue to be fine. Now, that's especially if the flames burn clear and bright. Now, like smoke, morning mist can help you gauge the weather for a day. So a light, low ground mist often precedes a really, really nice day. However, if the mist is high on the hills or heavy and being blown by the wind, might mean that more rain is on the way. And I've seen that here locally because I've got all these mountains, right? So for me, it's like, woohoo, those are just clouds up on those mountains, right? Or next to the mountain. Well, if I was on the mountain, it'd be like, why am I in the fog? And, I can see, you can almost see the line between the decent weather and the rain falling because, if you're looking down the valley, you can see where the rain is at. And it's really interesting to watch. The behavior of some plants and animals can also tell you when, or things about forecasting the weather. So scarlet pimpernel, for instance, close their petals before rain. So they're also known as the poor man's weather glass. Let's see. People have observed trees rustling their leaves when rain is coming, kind of like they're talking to each other. It's like, hey, the rain is coming. I've noticed that some trees almost flip their leaves upside down to catch the water a little bit better when it's raining. Insects become more active an hour or two before raining, so same as the birds that feed them. So yeah, if it's humid out and the mosquitoes really start biting during the summer, it means it's probably going to rain. Yeah. So Justin says, in my opinion, most, if not all, of the volcanic activity happening right now is because of tectonic movement and is pretty natural to the Earth. The solar activity, however, is more interesting. Yeah, it is. It is interesting because I think a lot of the electromagnetic energy that we're being hit with is definitely affecting our magnetic field, which is causing tectonic movement. I think it's all related. It's kind of like the toe bone is eventually connected to the shoulder bone. It just has to jump through a few hoops and have a few more connections. So, and Justin, yes, they do. They also drag your garbage about 2 miles into the woods. That happened about this time last year. Yeah, we had a bear get into the garbage and spread it back into the trees. It was obnoxious. So Leo says, hey Paisley, have you seen the reports of tree and bushes waving? It's crazy. No. Trees and bushes. That's interesting. Trees waving in the wind. 2 leaves of this bush keep waving without any tree. I'll have to look. Some of that. I've not seen the reports. I've not seen the pictures or videos or anything like that. But wind isn't the only thing that can make the leaves move. There are other things that are unseen, perhaps, that can also make things move. Just like I think of the sprites, the fairies, the pixies, the fae, trolls, gnomes, all that stuff. Yeah. So Justin says a maple tree will turn all of its leaves upside down just before the rain. Yep. The oak, so my oak tree in the back it won't turn completely upside down. Partially. And more sideways. The maple will. So Titan says, Paisley, do the bears like plums? Maybe they or the raccoons got them. So we've been moosed and have lost our plums, which was vexing. The deer are not afraid to steal the plums also. But if we had raccoons, I'd be more worried about my chickens, which has been weird because my chickens are fine. And raccoons would also get into the garbage because they're raccoons and they get into everything. I've had them as pets. I know this. I know this well. Bears do like plums, but again, they'd get into the garbage also. So either deer, elk, moose, or Bigfoot. But the last time we had moose, she stayed in the backyard for almost a week. It was kind of annoying because you got to be careful with them crazy creatures. So, on that note, I am going to go to break. It's the top of the hour. When we come back, we'll do some singing bowl. So we'll see you guys in just a few. Hello, my lovelies. This is Paisley Wild, and we are off adventuring into the spaces between. So, Leo, during the break, I looked at that video. and with the leaves, and all I can see is, I can't see right there, but what hits my brain first is there is probably a sprite in there bouncing around, having a good time, saying, "Hey, look what I can do! Look at what." Wait for the silly people to check this out and freak out because yes. So, hello, Lenny. Welcome to the show. This is my name is Paisley Wild, and we talk about paganism and witchcraft, and spirituality, and herbalism, and whatever you guys ask questions about. Sometimes we go down the proverbial rabbit hole, and sometimes we stick to topic. It varies. Yeah, just a little bit. So after the break, I generally do singing bowl. And you know what? I think we need some. Can never have too much singing bowl. Paisley's Pagan Journey. I like it. Y'all are my peeps. Tonight we're talking about weather and some of the things that can tell us what the weather's going to be like. Other than just, looking outside and seeing what the sky says. So just before the break, I had mentioned that insects often become a wee bit more active about 2 hours before a rainstorm. So if it's been humid out, or if your rain's in the forecast and about 2 hours before the storm hits or the rain starts, the mosquitoes start biting, yes, the rain is coming. And I've noticed that one, and it's annoying. It's a lot annoying. Now, there is an exception. The bigger the thunderstorm that's coming, or the storm that's coming, and that stillness just before the storm happens, that includes the bugs. Everything's kind of chilling out and going silent and hiding before the storm hits. And then just before a period of good weather comes to an end, frogs and toads will come out and start croaking and talking and doing their thing. And also gnats, no-see-ums, the bugs that like to will gather in large clouds. Now, if they form wispy spirals, that means the next day will be fine. If spiders are making new webs to catch them, it's a confirmation that, the next day will be good. Now, if spiders are only repairing their webs, that means the rain's expected, and they don't want to go to the extra work to create a whole new web. They just, fill in some patches so they can catch some bugs, right? And ants will often build hills around the entrances to their nests to keep the water out if it looks like it's going to rain. And bees will often make shorter journeys from the hive to their flowers, and stay closer to home if it looks like the weather's going to be icky. So, sure, you can go to weather.com, you can tune into the news or the Weather Channel or whatever it is and get your news. Farmer's Almanac actually is not that far off base often, interestingly. And there's all sorts of stuff that you can find to learn about the weather. And it seems like as you become more spiritually aware, hi Jackson, lots of new names. Welcome. As you become more spiritually aware, or more aware on your pagan path, and Oh, hold on. It seems like we become more in tune with the weather. Oh, Titan, you want me to? Oh, Titans asks, have y'all ever cut a persimmon seed in half? Fork, mild winter, spoon, a lot of snow and wet, knife biting cold and cutting wind. I have not. I actually wouldn't know what one looked like if I had one. Interesting. So I'm looking at the pictures now. Okay, so if you cut it. Oh, gotcha. So if the seed on the inside looks like a knife, then expect frigid winds that'll cut like a blade. If it's fork shaped, and they're showing pictures here, that's really interesting. Oh, thanks, Titan. If the seed is fork shaped, it means a mild winter with powdery and light snow. Or if it's spoon shaped, well, it's because you're going to need a shovel. And Jackson, yeah, we're all pagans here. Well, we're not all pagans. There's a lot of pagans here, a lot of heathens. We do have some Christians. I am polytheistic, meaning I believe in all the gods, including yours. And there are many answers. There's more than one path to enlightenment. So either listen and learn and open your mind, or, well, you're here voluntarily, dear. You don't have to stay. So, let's see. Yeah, as we become just more and more aware of the world around us, we observe the way the wind blows, how the weather flows, what the animal life is doing around us, what the people around us are doing. Because I know that if we're watching the news lately, you're going to see some things that just don't make a lot of sense. So, and then real quick, so it looks like I've got a caller. Let's see if this works this time. Hello, Justin. You're on the air. Hey! How's it going? Yay! The magic worked. Right? So what is on your mind, my dear? Mm-hmm. Almost. Mm-hmm.
Happen, and the ice ages and all.
Mm-hmm.
I got it.
Are you still there? What? I know that you keep.
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay. So, basically, as long as everybody. So, mic check. Can you guys hear me? I pushed a button to make sure Justin could talk, and I can't. I don't know. So basically, if y'all are listening, Justin is talking about how the biblical floods that are in the scriptures show up in almost every culture around the world, ancient culture. Almost every single one of them has some sort of flood story. So yeah, keep going, dear. They can hear you now.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I'm getting an echo.
Yeah. That. I don't know if I can fix that one.
Okay. Well, I guess I'll just talk and try to judge the delay speed.
Okay.
My questions were basically because I'm still learning, trying to learn about the pagan ways and their about everything basically pagan, because there's no written scripture that I can look up besides studies of the pagan gods that have been documented, but those are usually by Europeans and people that observed their religions and their spiritual beliefs and that sort of thing. So it's really not from a pagan perspective. What are there any pagan writings or scriptures that we can look back to that talk about these global events that we actually knew happened? We know it from several other cultures and many studies.
So,
Is there anything pagan that we can look to see how they recorded these events, these pretty much biblical events? I mean, do they think they were gods punishing the earth, or?
Some of it, some of the cultures felt it was gods. For some reason, were doing something, either cleansing the earth, or bringing life waters, or the gods were fighting, and it was a result. Or there's a couple of different things that, like with the biblical floods. To get the information on that, that's a little harder. It requires some research, because you can't just, it's not like with Christianity you can go to the Bible, or with Judaism you can go to the Torah. Not the Torah, but it's not coming to me. But the other religions often have books that say, hey, this is how things happened. And it's frustrating, because as a pagan, we can't just pick up a book that says, oh, well, the Celts believed this, and that it's written down. So you'd have to look within each of the different traditions. So the Egyptian culture itself had a bit of on the floods, and so you'd have to look at something with the Egyptian traditions, Egyptian history. Same with the Greek histories or Roman histories, the Celtic histories. There's quite a few different cultures that do have something. Titan says there's 352 accounts of the flood from every culture. The earliest are from is it from the Samaritan or the Sumerian Codex? Because the Sumerians had something too, I believe. And it's amazing to me how many of those things are, they're stated over and over again. Even the Hindu culture, with Shiva and whatnot, they have information about the floods as well. They also have information about spaceships. So, it's I wish I could say there's one clearinghouse you could go that there would be all sorts of information. I go to patheos.com, patheos.com. I'll put it in the notes here, or the chat. And learnreligions.com. those are both really good sites to get some basics and to get started. You can also do just a basic search on like flood stories or flood histories. And that would, at your local library, your local librarian should be able to help you there. Now, as far as the different Sumerian, okay, thanks. I thought it was Sumerian there, and so. And Leo asks or says that would written material have been burned or destroyed because of how so many viewed pagan views? Well, like the library at Alexandria was burned because they had a lot of pagan and heathen type information and documents in there, and so the Christians burned it. Unfortunately, that means a lot of information was lost. So a lot of the stories and such are more word of mouth than documented, and then their word of mouth passed down, and then when writing became more common, they were documented. So there's some information lost, of course, but there's still some information out there. The Egyptians wrote everything down that they felt was important. That doesn't necessarily mean it was really that important. But yeah, there's been a lot of effort to hide information. Now, even though the Library of
That was something I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm. I wish I could go back in time and save the information at Library of Alexandria. Now, the Pompeii, they found a library in Pompeii where all of the documents were preserved within the ash, and new technology is allowing them to scan the documents to see what they can find is written within the scrolls and such. And sorry, distracted. So that to me is interesting. So generally speaking, for the chat room real quick, for me, magic is energy and energy is magic. So I guess in my interpretation, magic is very similar to science. So magicians or witches are very similar to scientists. Magic is just that which is not explained also. Are you going to be able to have a fireball come out of your hand? Well, it depends. What kind of technology do you have? It's energy, right? And and you, sorry, that's funny. So we're not Harry Potter. So if you saw, Hollywood magic is different than real magic. That's just all there is to it. Hollywood often has pyrotechnics and special effects and computer imaging and all sorts of stuff. Reality is a little different. So Harry Potter, just be careful. And Hermione, there is no spell to straighten your hair. So I wish I could go back and get the information from the library at Alexandria. But yes, go ahead.
I just wanted to say, sometimes the trolls can really be beneficial to your channel. Like, they're seriously adding to your chat, and it's entertaining. It's cool.
Yes. Yes, it is.
I'm a mod in there. I could have canceled any of this stuff, but this is fun.
I know, right?
And it just draws attention to it's more activity to your channel, so you might as well just let them be silly.
Just let them roll. Yep. So, anyways.
Well,
go ahead.
My questions stem from a lot of studies of ancient history and religion and everything, because I've always been searching. Since I've been young, I was born to a really religious woman from a really rough biker man, and they split up, and I ended up getting tossed back and forth. And so spirituality and religion has been just a confusion to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I just study and search and search and search. And so I'm always asking questions
Mm-hmm.
about everything. And that is unfortunate. And I think, honestly, there is a lot of knowledge that probably was written that has been lost because it's been destroyed by Christians or whatever faith that was conquering a nation or a region at one
Yes.
time. They destroyed their faith and they converted them to what they wanted them to be, to control them. Just like, the Christians with the pagans, and honestly, all the way out to the Native Americans. It was a
Mm-hmm.
Western faith that was forced on the natives and everything.
Mm-hmm. Well, and yes,
And
history
that
is
just
written
comes
by
from
the
conquering.
yes. So history is written by the conqueror, the winner, and unfortunately, in the process, they tend to erase a lot of what came before. So some of the histories and some of the information actually come from the Romans because they allowed a lot of those different faiths to just integrate into their own. Rather than saying that they needed to be separate or they needed to give it up. It's like, hey, you can worship your gods. You just got to pay attention to ours and pay your taxes. Or we'll crucify you. So, there is information out there. And it's hard to find because often, if you go online to search for information, you'll find some, but a lot of it is buried amongst other stuff like Magic the Gathering or World of Warcraft or Skyrim or what have you. And
Yeah, search results are garbage these days.
yeah, exactly. And if what you're often searching for will impact your search algorithms also. And so you'll be limited. So you almost needed to go incognito or use somebody else's computer to do the research to get the more open-minded information or the less focused.
That's why I wish that every time I type A, it didn't pull up Asian ass porn.
Oh, my stars. Yeah, that'd be bad.
Yeah, search results can be awful.
Yes, they can.
But it's hard you have to consider your source where you're looking things up. It's not always what it seems. You will get redirected to all kinds of garbage, and most of it is academia
Mm-hmm.
crap that you can't get real knowledge, real studies from real people in the field unless you know who to search.
Right.
You have to know who to type in to get real information, because you're not going to get truth
Mm-hmm.
by just looking up. You're going to get the same academic crap that you've been taught your entire life, because they're not going to release new studies that contradict anything that has been fortified into all these colleges and schools and everything, like Yale and Harvard and
Mm-hmm.
all this. You're not going to get any new information, because they're not going to just change their text or something. Everything they've been teaching for all this time for nothing.
Exactly. Well, and that's why, for instance, a lot of the information on the giants has been lost just because it didn't fit into the timeline. So the skeletons were either destroyed or lost, and a lot of the information was willfully destroyed by the archaeologists, the historians, because it didn't fit the the storyline, and it's
Yes.
frustrating.
And the same thing that your show is about tonight, the weather, and that all ties into everything. Everything ties together. The weather, the tectonic movement, the stars, astrology, people used to study all of that, and now people are stupid. If you take away your laptop and your phone, you're a dumbass these days. Like, you couldn't go out and tell me, I think a lot of people would acclimate pretty fast if they had to, but there's a bunch of people that would not function if you just shut the power off.
Right. And that's...
And knowing these weather things, these natural events, these noticing your surroundings, like you were talking about earlier, the bugs, the plants, everything around you, without noticing that, if you're not paying attention to that, you're going to be lost.
Exactly. And it is frustrating. It's scary also. Just like there's a lot of people who can't read a map, which I grew up, that was kind of a necessary skill. I ran wild in the mountains of North Idaho by myself with my horse for years, and I never got lost. And it's really hard for me to get lost now, just because I know where north is. Heaven forbid. It's really weird for me to be someplace that I can't figure out where I'm at. Or generally, I'm inside of a store of some sort that I've never been in before, and I get turned around. And just knowing where north is a big deal, and knowing that is where I need to go or what I need to find my way. So. But I know not everybody else. I went to visit my sister in North Carolina, and she used MapQuest, or she had her GPS system on the entire time I was there. It's like, oh, just follow the GPS, you'll figure out where you're going. It's like, can't you just tell me where to go? What are the directions? Do I go north at the intersection, or do I go south, or what do I do? And she couldn't really give me directions. And it was just frustrating. It's like, just give me the information, or give me the address, and I'll figure it out. So yeah, the information that we assume is always going to be there, what happens when it isn't? You're right. There's a lot of people out there that would be in a world of hurt. Just like, I say, be prepared.
Yes.
And for me, preparation. No, you're fine. For me, preparation is not, because the world's coming to an end or people are going to invade. It's what happens if the power goes out? Are you going to be able to eat? No, that's the preparation part that I wish people would pay attention more, because they just aren't. They aren't ready for it, and because of that, I think. If we had, so say we did have a major solar flare that knocked out power, that would be a pretty big deal. They'd have to replace a lot of transformers, and we don't have that many currently available. So if we didn't have that many currently available, what happens? Well, they'd have to make them. Well, we're in lockdown. Where are they coming from? I think we'd be without power for a while, and I think people would die as a result. And it'd be really, really sad and devastating. At the same time, it's like, they have the same science that we've had. They've had the same information that we've had. Why is it that not everybody is getting the message?
Yes, and it's like people are being, honestly, if you look at the product of our current, well, you're probably better off than I am, but our current education system, I mean, the kids that come out of our education system right now, we had to battle to put our kids into good schools. Granted, we were in Portland, so that might tell you something, but we had to battle to put our kids in schools all over town to get them a good education.
Mm-hmm.
And the kids that are coming out of public school are stupid. I mean, I hate to be that blunt, but when I talk to them, and I try to approach people with tact, and try to make a positive situation out of every conversation.
It's hard.
But so many people are just completely clueless. Like, you take them out into the woods, and it's the first time they've been in the woods. When our kids were going to school, Mason used to come home, our middle child.
Mm-hmm.
He used to come home and be like, everybody was into my story today. I told about what we did over the weekend when I went camping. And then we talked to his teacher. The guy was named Mr. Salmons. He was actually a solid dude. And he would say, yeah, all the kids are just waiting for Mason to tell what he did over the weekend, or when he went camping or went on a vacation with his family, because they don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
They don't get that. And that's super sad. That is sad that people aren't getting their, they're not active with their kids. They're not taking their children out into the woods, and they're experiencing nature and everything. They're staying in this concrete jungle, where there's all this divisiveness and grifting, and it's just like a vampirism that's going on in these major cities.
Well,
it's scary.
It is
to
scary.
me, and
it is scary. And so, like Mini-Me, for instance, this week she's been really excited. She's been nature shopping. So that means she goes outside with her little grocery cart and rolls around and picks leaves and grass and puts it in her cart because she's going to make things with it, which is super cute.
Oh, that is awesome.
Right? Today she had her on her fairy wings and was playing underneath the cedar tree. But she's been poking at me because we haven't picked walnut leaves to dry for tinctures. So she's like, Mom, we got to do this. They're going to be gone. Mom, we have to do this. And it's a lot of what I do for wildcrafting and such is because of her. I want her to learn these things. And it shouldn't be lost information. I mean, I'm looking at my bookshelf across the room, and I've got one book is container gardening, container gardening, the big book of gardening skills. The next one is a book of arts and crafts, and then culinary arts, and then cookbooks, the Walk Bible, followed by Wild and Weedy, and one about the Morrigan, and so, and these are all books that she'll pull out and she'll look at, and it's like, Mom, can we do this? And Mom, can you do that? And Murray, you do need to come to the U.S. and visit. I'm just saying. And I wish that more kids had that opportunity. And I feel like I'm failing her half the time because I'm not doing as much as I wish I could, because I'm not as mobile right now. I'm using a cane, which is fantastic, I have to tell you, trying to walk out in the weeds with a cane. Blah. So she has rocks, and we do crystal grids and all that stuff. So it's important to get our kids out and doing things, and whether it's Girl Scouts or Boy Scouts or Scouts, whatever, or Little Acorns, or Spiral Scouts is another one. And we just need more of that. More introduce our kids to the real world, unplug them from technology for a little bit. Mini-Me has to turn the tablet off and walk away and do other things for a while. She's got a list of chores that she has to do before she can even use the tablet. Real basic ones like feed the dog, do the cat box, and that's
that is awesome. And she's going to be one of the few that actually rises from to the cream of the crop, and that's a good thing. And that's what I lean on. The few good that are going to rise to the top and actually be making a difference.
Yes.
It's never going to, evil can never take hold if there's good in the world, I think.
Absolutely.
And that applies to just about any religion or any culture or anything. As long as we're strong. I worry about the percentages, It's like because we raised our kids in Portland, and it was great when we started out, and then it just like the education system and everything and the social environment just deteriorated.
Yes.
And so we left Portland. We moved out and, got the hell away. And our kids turned out great, but how many others didn't,
Exactly.
My wife used to do daycare there, and we lived in St. John's, which was it was a pretty impoverished area, We were a minority in that area, and we had some pretty rough kids, that she would watch because she would take in all of these state cases, they called them back then. But they were on assistance and everything, and it just got bad. I mean, these kids were just we were just like a kid farm. The parents were just losers that didn't have jobs. They were just getting state assistance and having more kids. It was awful. So we've had our share of of cultures and situations.
Yeah.
So I'm not just talking out of my ass.
Well, my boys, they've both experienced, country living and town living. I won't say city living because Coeur d'Alene isn't quite a city. Well, it is. It's complicated. It's town. But it's not huge. Like Spokane has quite a few people, but the Spokane Coeur d'Alene metro area has like 1 million people, and that's insane to me. But they experience both of it, and nowadays the older boy is really into living out rurally, and the younger boy is not so much. He'd rather be in town. He likes getting pizza in 30 minutes or less. But I've noticed a lot of kids that grew up in the country, they go into town, they do that for a little bit, and they're like, you know what? I want to raise my kids out in the country again. So they go rural. And so, yeah, it's interesting. And I wish our kiddos had that opportunity more to experience just getting their feet in the dirt, the uncontaminated dirt, I should say. And learn how to grow things. There's magic in learning how to grow a tomato or pumpkin or fern, any of that stuff. It's fun growing something from a seed and being able to watch the whole process. And, just to experience the magic of growing something, let alone growing something that you can do something with. I like birdhouse gourds. I love those because you can do so much with them. And it's amazing to me how many kids out there just don't get that kind of experience. And yeah, my goal this year was to spend a lot more time hiking and seeing the sights because Idaho has so many interesting things. We've got waterfalls and pools and rivers and creeks and lakes and ponds and all that stuff. And unfortunately, I have some genetics that are pretty fantastic, and I have quite a bit of calcification buildup, spurring that is cutting into my tendons and musculature in my legs. And so, yeah, I'm walking with a cane. I'm supposed to be walking with a walker or 2 canes, and I'm protesting. And they have me on the big painkillers nowadays, which is ridiculous. It's not what I wanted. I'd have gone the more green route just because it's better for you. But that's not legal here, which that's a different conversation for a different day. and it's been frustrating because I haven't been able to go and do a lot of the things, even just within the property here. It's 20 acres. It shouldn't be that bad. I should be able to do things. I live right next to a river. I should be able to go play in the river. But because my physical health is poor right now, I haven't been able to do as much. So, yes, we do wildcrafting in the yard. And that's been interesting. So, yeah, and I put off the medications.
That's rough.
Yeah, I put off the painkillers as long as possible because, for crying out loud, I don't like taking them because they don't always work. But it got to the point where I needed some sleep. So, yeah.
You haven't found anything herbal that you can grow that will help or anything?
So wild lettuce actually helps because it's it's opium lettuce, same thing. But it's topical, and so it doesn't always get deeper into the tissues where it needs to be, which is frustrating. And yeah, you can drink it as a tea or you can put it in your pipe and smoke it, but it's a little, the effects are a little different. But it isn't as addictive and doesn't have a lot of the psychoactive properties that opioids, for instance, have. And yeah, there's a lot of medicine just in the backyard. And so we've been, harvesting and doing things. Like I did a TikTok video today on the benefits of the walnut leaf because, yeah, it's very astringent. It's good for eczema and psoriasis and that kind of thing. And so just little things. And I wish I could just sleep differently, but I don't have strength because I'm damaging the tissues just by walking. And yeah, there's inflammation, and I've got compromised discs. Every disc in my back is compromised. So yeah, that's fun too. Don't have a car accident if you can keep from it.
Well, I totally recommend, and I know it's overstated, and it's hard to trust a lot of times because you get cheap products that are placebo that don't really work, that are not processed right. But real CBD oil will help you.
So I'm
a true believer because we make it here out of our own plants that we grow in our gardens, and it's really helpful. Seriously, the salve that Jackie makes, you can just rub it on you. You've had it.
I have had it, and I liked it. A friend of mine locally has...
It does work. It's not like a...
Right, exactly.
If you take the oil, you have to eat the oil or drink it. It is very beneficial.
It is. I'll also use it as a massage oil if I'm rubbing it, trying to massage a muscle or something. So, and I've used that too. I also have crystals and stones that I use because that's just the kind of goober I am. And it all helps a little bit. Unfortunately, the first sneeze undoes all of the good. It's frustrating. Yeah, a sneeze, a hiccup, a cough, trip over a cat, trip over my toes, because there's more. I could sit here and talk for the next 3 hours about my health issues, which are flippin' fantastic. So, but what do? You just figure it out and keep plodding forward and doing the best you can. That's all you can do.
That's all you can do.
Yeah.
Keep working on it. I have the same problems. I don't have the same problems. I have different problems at the same level, probably. So I get where you're coming from.
Yeah. So,
I'm still a dirty, rotten smoker, so I have like cough my head off and first thing in the morning and clear my lungs and everything. And I know the problem. I need to quit. And I have like several times, but I end up smoking again for some reason.
stress,
It's
anxiety. You know,
stupid.
there's a lot of reasons why we go back to our bad habits, and some of them even make sense. And I get it. Just and it is frustrating when we go back to those bad habits. So, so Leo asks, is it a compressed discs? Injury massage therapy does wonders. Yeah. So I have bulging discs, I have deteriorated discs, and I have pinched discs, and I have a malformation. So I'm missing a disc also. So there's, yeah, it's all good. I'm probably going to get in one of those inversion chairs to see if inversion therapy will help me too. Titan wants to know, Justin, does cannabis actually help with inflammation, or is it just dull the pain?
It definitely helps with inflammation. It all depends on how you're using it. If you if you smoke a bowl of weed, no, it's not going to help with inflammation. It's definitely going to redirect your brain, and you're going to not feel the pain so much. You're going to feel a lot more mellow. But
Yes.
if you eat it, if you ingest it, especially in oil that's been concentrated, so you only have to take like a teaspoon to, deal with your ailments. It is so much more effective, and you don't get the side effects, the harmful side effects of smoking it. You don't want to burn anything and inhale it into your lungs. It's a stupid idea there. So that kind of counteracts the cannabis, the positive side of cannabis. You eat it.
Yes.
So if you can eat edible or get oil and put them into your food or your drink or whatever, however you want to ingest it, it is so much more healthy that way. And you'll see so much better results. But it needs to be the real stuff. And I don't know how, and I can't remember where Titan is from, God damn it. I think Texas.
Mm-hmm.
And down there may be some people that are growing that he could talk to and actually get the right product. But don't trust anything that you're going to see in a dispensary or especially in a 7-Eleven or whatever. That's not real CBD oil. And that's the problem that has been so tainted because people have tried that stuff and it doesn't do anything. It doesn't work.
Right. And that's...
But Titan has had our lotion and everything too, so who knows?
I talked to our local senator the other day at the fair, and I asked her, "It's like, hey, what are the odds of it ever being legalized in Idaho?" And she's like, probably not so much because we have too many conservatives, too many Mormons actually, and it's frustrating because yes, it does help. It's been shown to help. There's too many studies out there that show that it's good for you. It's just unless it's federally approved to be illegal, which I had hoped that would happen, have happened already. It's just, I don't know. As she mentioned, though, that one of the problems is that right now, because it is unregulated, the quality is inconsistent. And it's all over the place. Some suppliers have great product and some suppliers have bad, and some vary from, one season to the next. And it's frustrating because it's not consistent. And since it's not consistent, it's you never know really what you're going to get for sure. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I still think you're better off. Honestly, I think the black market is more trustworthy than the federal government at this point, or even the state government. You are definitely, compared to my state of Oregon, your state laws and governing and everything is so much better than ours right now. We our governor just mandated masks in the open air in public. We're supposed to wear a mask in public. Of course, nobody's doing it.
Well, yeah.
Everybody's like,
Yeah, I saw.
screw you, but that's ridiculous. You guys have so much better of it. That's why half of Oregon was trying to become a greater Idaho.
Yeah, which that was fun to watch
You
too.
guys are,
You know, it'll happen. Leo says, "Hey, I was more."
honestly, you're better off with the government not mandating or controlling your herbal supplements, because then it becomes a controlled thing. You're better off keeping it on the black market. And I'm sorry if I'm supposed to say that on YouTube.
Well, we'll see what happens with YouTube. What are they going to do? Ground me? Who knows with YouTube anymore?
They screwed Oregon.
Yeah,
They
they
made all that shit legal, and as soon as recreational became legal, there were so many. They put out so many licenses for people to grow, and people just grew like massive amounts. And suddenly we had this surplus of marijuana in Oregon, and it was going everywhere. It was like a craze, but it screwed the whole thing. The state tried to get their hands in it and everything, and they started taxing all these growers and all this. But what it was doing was creating just a ton of weed farms, and we had this massive surplus of weed that was just flowing out of Oregon, and they couldn't stop it. It was
a mess.
insane. So it drove the prices down, way, way, way down, and it screwed up the whole market.
Well,
just now it's back to where it used to be, and the black market is actually making more money than the fucking federal market.
right.
Sorry.
So, no, you're fine.
I gotta wash my mouth.
Well, this is your soapbox. I know you're firmly on it, and that's okay. I personally think it should just be legalized. I've been around potheads and I've been around drunks, and I know which one I'd rather be around. Potheads rarely start bar fights. Just saying. Every pothead I've ever encountered.
It makes people think rationally and calm down once in a while and actually start to listen to each other.
Well,
imagine that.
Every pothead that I've ever been around that has had issues with tempers and stuff, and they get all huffy, you just you can talk them down with a Twinkie. But so yeah.
Hey, I resemble that remark.
All right. Well, hey, we're just about done for the night. Can you believe that? It's been a fast hour.
I can, because I usually end up killing your show.
Hey, you're not killing my show. You bring in good information, and we start talking, and it's all good. No, I like it. So, yes, pay attention to the weather. The weather is showing. The signs are showing that the weather is a-changing, and just to sum things up real quick, and thank you, Justin, for giving a call and joining in. I appreciate your input, and yeah, just legalize the green is better. It's better for you. So,
I always love the conversation.
Right. Thanks, Justin.
You're amazing, Paisley.
Thank you.
Love you big time.
Thank you. Love you too. So yeah, the climate is changing. The weather is changing. It's cyclical. The weather that we've had in the past, whether it was an ice age or a flood or a heat wave, is going to come again. If weather didn't change, we'd still be in an ice age, kids. So, just be aware. Pay attention to what's going on around you. The The signs are there. Pay attention. And be ready. You know, if that means carry extra stuff in the car if you're traveling to make sure that you'll be protected if the weather blocks you up, do so. It's not that hard to prepare yourself. It really isn't. It's better to be prepared and not need it than need it and not have it. So pay attention to the signs. Thanks for joining all. I hope you guys have a fantastic week. We'll see you next week. So merry meet and merry part and merry meet again. And y'all just have a great night. Thanks.